Welcome to the Core Advantage Random Thought Show, proudly brought to you by Iron Edge.
A show where we talk about anything and everything in fitness and high performance.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Random Thoughts, our second episode for the week.
Hi guys, how you going?
How's it feel doing 2 in a week?
It was good, yeah.
My voice is a little scratchy.
Sure it's not from that.
I hope I am built out for this life, I really do. It's the 15th of August today, it's mid-August.
Yep.
We're a little late to this one, but I think it's something that we didn't invent. I think it's a brilliant idea to get on top of. You know more about this than I do.
Yeah, so our friends at the Daily Talk Show, Josh Jansen and Tommy Jackett, Josh in particular came with this idea of Organised August. And it was just, the kind of getting a shit together month.
Yeah.
It's just, getting everything in place. And there was a bit of, their banter level is pretty high. And there's a bit of toing and froing and fighting about it, but then they settled on it in the end.
It was Action August at one stage, I remember.
I heard Organised August and I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
The phonetics of it just work. I know it doesn't work out with the letters, but the phonetics work.
I feel like the phonetics are stronger than the alliteration, so that's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And and the idea is to find some key things that you're going to do to be more organised, and that can be all sorts of things. So that could be getting your fitness program in shape. That could be getting your emails in order, whatever it might be. It's just things that you're always, those things that you're always going to get around to, but you never do. I think that's the thing is use a month as an impetus for that. And I really like the idea. I think it's great. Because
there's so many months and days out there that are like Environment Day, Earth Day, Movember, where we do things for other great causes.
Yep.
But this is a bit of a put your own oxygen mask on first type thing.
Get your house in order.
Yeah. If you get your stuff sorted, you'll be more optimised, your life will be less stressful, then you can help others to a greater degree, be more effective at what you do.
I've always believed in that really strongly, because what I've noticed is that when I am in a good place with my sleep, nutrition and training, I am a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better
boss, better coach.
I just think, you're better at everything. You can take things in your stride more. There's just so many benefits if you're getting your own stuff sorted.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't do that. And they don't, if they do, and particularly with the fitness and the strength and conditioning and just looking after your body side of things, it's not until, September, October, November, people start thinking about it in September, and then, by November they've really ramped up some speed, and then it's like summer's there, and it's like, no, now's the time.
And then barbecue season and beers and everything, and then Christmas and you go back down.
Yeah, and so now's the time to, in terms of your physical side of things, there's that saying, summer bodies are made in winter, and now's the time to get stuck in, I reckon.
And August is the perfect month of the year to get your shit sorted, because it's not the shock of winter, it's not the cold mornings in June where it's like, oh my God, the frosts have started, and well, here in Melbourne anyway, and everything's gotten bitter and cold, and you're sort of adjusting to that. By August, you're in the flow of winter. Get the socks on straight out of bed, things like that.
I would really like to, because you talked last episode about how the majority of our listeners are American.
More than close to double.
Yeah.
Aussies, pick up your game. Tell your friends.
I'd be interested in hearing from someone on our Instagram. We'll do a quiz about what they think, because for them, August is going to be
end of summer, coming into fall. Yeah.
So it's quite a different thing. Might be a different vibe for them. This might not translate as well.
We might need a March equivalent.
Yeah. But anyway, let's stick with Organised August because it works.
I loved, so the Daily Talk Show, Josh's and all that, and listen to their show on and off. And episode 1 where Josh is like, day 1, Organised August, organise your wallet.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't have to be as fancy as a new fitness program and a new diet routine and a new sleep schedule. Just get your wallet, take everything out and see what cards you actually need, what business cards, what receipts are in there that you just don't need anymore. And just sort something really simple out. It's like 10, 20 minutes and that part of your life is now clear again.
Well, I have a pretty organised wallet. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I was disappointed because I did that on day 1. I was like, I kind of need all this stuff.
But you know what's a really good tip is you can, in the Notes app on, if you have an iOS device, is that you can scan all your cards into one password-protected, fingerprint-protected file.
Scan them like a document, which we learnt the other day.
Yeah, and they sit and you can sort of slide through the documents, which is really cool. And then if you lose your wallet, as happens from time to time for people, you've got every single card there and every single detail there. Like that's next level, I reckon.
Yeah, Past Jacob wish he'd done that though, because he's now lost his Medicare card and can't seem to locate it. So I'm having some trouble there. But too late to scan it. And Medicare is this ridiculous system here in Australia. To get a new card, you need to put in your old card number.
You don't know it.
To apply and enter your MyGov details. It's like, please enter your card. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's
so
in the abyss.
Medicare is wonderful. It's government paid healthcare, and we're very lucky to have it. I should be crystal clear.
That wasn't a dig on the system. It was a dig on the.
That is definitely a little issue. And it used to be that you could just go into a Medicare office, but now they don't really do that anymore. It's all
they don't. I was assuming they could. I was just delaying.
There's one or two in Melbourne, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Because there used to be most shopping centres had one, and lots of places had them.
I'm probably going to have to do the on hold thing, but that's what this month's all about, organising that sort of thing. So I'll do that before the month is out.
Jocko Willink, who has a great podcast and is a fascinating thinker and an operator, military background. I like how he talks about avoiding, in terms of organisational stuff, that what you really want to do is avoid any single points of failure in your system. Like there's that military saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Can you tell the story of Kate's version of it? Because Kate's version is much better and I use it all the time. And I then get the enjoyment of actually telling the story about how that came about.
So for those that don't know, my wife is a brilliant woman. She's an aerospace engineer, very, very smart. So
very big brain.
Literally rocket scientist. But she does have an Achilles heel, and that is sayings. She butchers sayings left, right and centre.
The metaphor game is poor.
The best of all time was one time when she said to me, she said, I'd got something wrong, and she goes, close, but no guitar. That was my favourite. But a close second is I said about the saying, and I really like that. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Meaning, if you've got 2 guns and you lose 1 gun, you've still got a gun.
If one gets waterlogged, you still have the one on your hip.
Equipment-wise, you should always be thinking 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
A redundancy system.
Yeah. Yep. And she goes, gotcha, pack 3 guns. And so now she uses that as a saying.
As a reverse saying.
Yeah,
the Kate-ism.
The Kate-ism. Pack 3 guns.
Very cool.
Not into guns, by the way.
No, we don't actually have guns. More a metaphor within a metaphor about packing things. So, Organised August. What are you doing, Durham, for your Organised August? Have you made any deliberate things that you're like, I need to get that thing a little more shipshape?
Look, I mean, I what I'm trying to do is get my life's training organised in harmony with my circadian rhythms. That's my thing. I'm reading a fascinating book by Dr. Sachin Panda, the Circadian Code, and he's one of the world's foremost researchers into all of our various
He does
clocks.
a lot of work in gut microbiome stuff as well. I remember hearing a lot of Rhonda Patrick stuff.
And he's a brilliant. It's a really well written book, really very readable, very interesting, and the central point in the book is that the human body, although anatomically modern humans have only been around for 100,000 to 200,000 years, whatever it may be.
Not long.
Not that long. His point is that the basic body design that we have has actually been around in terms of fancy monkeys walking around.
Bipedal primates?
About 2 million years.
A long time, yeah.
So most of the stuff we have is effectively 2 million year old hardware in
terms of bone structure, tendon structure, hips, pelvis,
and
things like that.
And more importantly, from his perspective, the interplay of hormonal reactions.
The chemical side of things,
Yeah. And how it works is that our body clock is set by light. There's a light receptor that inputs light to our suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is our SCN. And
nailed that, by the way, Durham.
Got it in one. And that is actually the kind of synchronizing device for all of our internal body clocks. And
it's the master switch. It's
the master switch.
It's Telstra time.
And I didn't understand that until reading his work and following a bit of his stuff. When we talk about body clock, I thought we had a body clock.
Yeah, the SCN, effectively.
But what we have is a master clock, which is the SCN, and then every cell in our body runs off a clock because you can't do all the processes at once. There has to be a time and a place where certain things will happen.
And things flow into other things. So if one thing starts, it starts a cascade.
Effect. Yeah. So every cell has a clock. Every organ has a clock. And so, for instance, if you're eating at a certain time each day, that will set your liver clock. And your liver's going to operate really well for about 12 hours and then not be awesome. And every part of it has a clock. So on the liver. So when you start metabolizing. So the first bite, like you're literally the first drop of food that hits your belly is bang, your liver clock, it's like a stopwatch, is on now. And it's going to operate effectively for 12 hours.
So you've got 12 hours of tip-top liver action.
Tip-top liver processing stuff, things going well, your body digesting it well.
And what happens after that 12 hours? What's the consequences?
In the 13th hour and onwards.
Dun, dun, dun. Very dramatic.
I'm not all the way through the book yet, so there'll be someone who's read the book and like, come on, you're butchering this. But what happens is you just don't process stuff as well. And so there's potential for things not like stored as well.
Insulin sensitivity, leptin resistance, those sort of things.
Yeah, and also a whole lot of just other dysfunctions and stress responses, just a lot of stuff that goes on in your body when it's not operating optimally.
The kind of stuff that leads to obesity, weight gain, visceral fat, like those sort of things.
Yeah.
Poor cognitive function, etc.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. And so his idea, and so the central thing is that before we lived in houses, the sun would come up, the SCN would be stimulated by the sunlight hitting the back of the eyeball, and then your body clock would go, cool, it's now time to be awake, alert, and energetic. It's daytime.
The blue light would switch you from melatonin mode to cortisol mode.
Yep. But what's fascinating is it doesn't just kick in when it's not like your body goes, the sun rises, bang, and you're on. What actually is happening like an hour beforehand, because of your other clocks that have been regulated, things are priming, switching, getting on. Everything's getting you ready to your melatonin is reducing, and everything's getting you ready. And then all day you're in the sunlight, and that tells you stay alert, stay awake. It's clearly action time. And then the sun goes down at night, and it's time for sleeping. And what we do is we lock ourselves up in houses and offices all day where we don't get adequate daylight. We're not getting enough lumens.
Yep.
And then at night, we're actually getting too many lumens.
Yeah, because then we turn the TV on, we get on our phones, get on our laptops.
Yeah, and what I've been thinking about a lot about is like my training's pretty good. I'm pretty consistent with a run, lift, run, lift, run, lift. My nutrition's pretty good, but probably the missing piece has been: am I really organising my life around the primordial rhythms that my body's meant to be operating with?
Which the big one, by the sounds of it, is going to be blue light and controlling devices.
Yeah, and so I've got flux now on my computer, so that's making it go.
You haven't got just night shift. You're on a Mac. You haven't just got
Is there night shift?
If you're on the current one, you can now get night shift automatically with, I think it was maybe the one before Mojave.
Right.
Or so definitely with Mojave.
I can stop mucking around with flux.
Get rid of flux. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've now got all Apple devices now have night shift. I believe a lot of Android ones have them as well. If not, you download something like Flux, which can override things.
Yeah, and so that just makes it look orangey, not bluey.
Yeah, so it changes the Kelvin of the light. It makes it warmer, which is going to be more like campfire, which is, if we think about ancestral times, and less like sunlight.
Yeah, because it's a blue frequency.
Which will slow down your melatonin secretion, elevate and maintain your cortisol at the wrong time. So you're messing with those clocks in terms of sleepiness.
Telling your body to be awake when it should be asleep.
Now, we've talked about this before, because I made this mistake. It was like, night shift, awesome. And I continued using my phone late into the night because there's still the stimulus effect of either doing work or engaging with the world on your device late at night.
It's not.
So it's not like you can just now scroll Instagram or check your emails until midnight. It's orange light, doesn't count.
I learned about these bills I have to pay via an orange light, therefore it won't keep me awake.
Exactly. So you still want to be keeping things pretty chill when you're on your warm light, especially as you get towards the end of the day, and don't be starting any new stressful projects.
I did that the other day. I'm pretty good at not checking my emails close before bed because I'm not going to action them. Let it go. It'll still be there tomorrow.
Actually, quick tip on that while we're here. A great way to check your emails is batch it. So do it twice, 3 times a day, but don't have the last one after 3 p.m. Because if you action something at 4:30, it's not going to get done by the person on the other end anyway.
Yeah.
You're just going to sit there going, did I write that right? We had this conversation. Are they going to get my email in time to change the order?
I think it's horses for courses though, because for me, if I don't action that then, I will start my next day doing emails. Whereas there's a great book by Daniel Pink, and I think it's called Timing, and it's this amazing scientific study of the best times to do everything. So he talked about it, for instance, and he just runs stats, how you're like, this is not a precise stat, but it's something ridiculous. Like you are 3 times more likely to die in an operating suite in the hospital at 2 o'clock in the afternoon than you are at 10 in the morning.
Like you are much more likely to get a reduced sentence after lunch as opposed to before lunch if the judge has just had food.
And the whole book, he's spent a couple of years just going deep into what's the best time to do everything.
Or in this case, the worst time.
Yeah. And one of the things he talks about is that in the mornings, you're high energy, high creativity. Mornings are the time for getting projects done. And I find that for my own personality and makeup, that is true. And then the afternoons around 2-ish till 4 is actually pretty dead time. We're actually not that productive. And he suggests that's the time for batching your emails, because it's you weren't going to get much done anyway. And then a lot of people get a second win between 4 and 6 where they can do more productive work as well.
That sounds pretty much exactly like my schedule. So up in the morning, train, sauna first thing, breakfast, and then to the desk. I'm a pretty good inbox zero kind of person. There's two kinds of people. There's people who have like thousands and they've got all 8 newsletters unsubscribed, and there's inbox zero. I'm an inbox zero person.
Well played.
So every morning I'll clear it to inbox zero, or as best I can. If there's a bigger thing, I'll leave that to the afternoon, and then I go to jobs from 10 till 12, 10 till 1, depending on my flow, and then email again mid-afternoon, and then I try not to check it again for the rest of the day. So I'll leave those ones from 2 or 3 onwards. They won't get action until the next morning.
Next day, Interesting. My Organised August thing is to be in sync with that a little bit more, so get the light side of things taken care of. And the other component that I'm experimenting with is just the timing of the food, because that's actually, if the master switch is the light, I reckon the next switch after that you've got to be cognizant of is when you're eating and what's that telling your body to do when. And so that's a bit of a work in progress. And I'm going to experiment. I'm going to see how I feel when I eat at certain times and how I can best sort of balance that out.
Nice.
Because to me, that's the heart. Like if you want to go right back to the heart of what is it that's going to have the biggest impact on your energy and output, and those would be the biggest things. If I wasn't already training, then training would be the biggest thing.
That was going to be my next segue is if you aren't as organised on some of those things like you were saying you are, where would you start? So you're a complete, let's pick an imaginary person who's a complete mess. Nothing is organised. Where should you start for your organisation?
You should start with the very first thing should be just getting up at the same time every morning, rolling out of bed. No. You should start with going to bed at the same time after you've laid your clothes out for training the next day.
Yeah, talk about that psychological hack.
Yeah,
I love that one.
In terms of training, the optimum is actually it's easier to train every day than it is to train 3 days a week. There's no two ways about it. It becomes just like brushing your teeth. You just get out of bed and you go train. So
it doesn't have to be the same training every day,
and it should not be.
And you should rotate between run, swim, cycle, lift.
And it doesn't have to be hard training. But just the idea of, it's just a thing I do is I roll out of bed and I go exercise and then I start my day. That's the most powerful antidepressant, performance enhancer, health, life expectancy increaser,
brain sharpener,
just everything.
And there's that level of smugness you get of having already done your training when you roll into work.
I just feel, smug might sound a little bit smug.
That was kind of the intention.
I think you just feel good about yourself. And so I think
because with that you can get the rest of the day you can get nothing done and like jobs pile up and your email inbox explodes and all these problems. But at the end of the day, you still had a great workout. You still got your sweat on. You still burned some energy. You still had that endorphin rush in the morning.
So I think that would be the number one thing is just, so you lay out your clothes. And the big trick is if you lay out your clothes the night before and you make it really easy, you want to make it like downhill skiing so that you kind of fall out of bed, you go to the loo, and then it's like, all right, and there in the lounge room laid out are your shoes with the socks inside them.
Ready to go.
Are your shorts with the undies on top of them. T-shirt, like everything is. If you need a hat, your hat is there. Everything.
If it's cold, you've got your long sleeve or your compression or whatever it is.
It's all laid out nicely. And then when you get up, you look at those clothes, and the choice is: do I do what past me wanted me to do and thought was a great idea last night? Do I just follow the plan, or do I scrap that plan, get all my clothes, walk back to the bedroom with the kind of the walk of shame with my clothing? and then put it all back into the drawers unused.
Or do I leave it out all day for my housemates or family or partner to look at and go, oh, that looks pretty clean there. Didn't train this morning. Yeah.
So it's a really good hack. And so that's what I would do. I'd lay out the clothes, go to bed and some people go a bit crazy, like, I'm going to go to bed at 7:30. It's like, no, just go to bed at a reasonable time so you can get up at a reasonable time. And
because remember, sleep is still part of being optimized. Like, you shouldn't be sacrificing all your sleep, but you should be trying to get to bed earlier in order to make that training in the morning work.
So I think, if you do that, I think that is the keystone. That's the lead domino, is get up and do some form of training. It doesn't have to be intense. Could be a half-hour walk. Could be some push-ups, squats, and calf raises. It's the point of it is just that it becomes a bedrock part of your life, and then you'll find that when you've committed to that and you're 10 days into your streak, or 20 or 50, whatever it may be, it's actually much easier to do other stuff as well, because you're like, well, I actually know I can do this. I will do other bits and pieces. Go ahead.
Talk on streaks.
So streaks
are such a powerful psychological trick.
Yeah. So the thing with being on a streak is that you build up momentum. If you've done a thing for 10 days in a row, and there's an app called Streaks that I absolutely love. If you've done something 10 days in a row, and missing out on it means that you go back to zero, you're really motivated to maintain that streak. And so I use a little app called Streaks, which tells you what streak you're currently on. It also, I think it's nice. The only downside of streaks is that if you break it, you're like, oh.
Yeah, because it's kind of like all or nothing.
It's
a bit like once you're out, it's like, now,
whatever. I'll come back to it when I
had one donut and I might as well have 30.
Yeah. The nice thing I like about the Streaks app is it has your streaks there, but also it just has percentage completed this week, percentage completed all time, percentage completed the last month. So you can keep streaks alive, but also because if it was 100% streak only and you were feeling like you were getting a bit crook, you might still push to train anyway.
When actually it might not be the best idea.
Bad plan. Whereas if you know that you've still got your overall percentage, I think that's the way to go with it. So there's days, the last month we went to Sydney, and there was one of the mornings where I just couldn't fit in a lift, and so I missed one there, and then I missed one other one. And I'm not beating myself up, because the thing is, percentage-wise, I still train 95%.
Do you hit 95?
Mostly.
That's what your streaks say?
Yeah.
You have a reverse streak as well, don't you?
I have a reverse streak idea that I haven't actually done.
You haven't formulated it yet? Yeah. Is it worth talking about yet, or should we save that for another streaks-only episode?
Yeah, I don't like talking about stuff I'm not certain of. Okay. I don't know. I have this... Well,
I do. I like talking about things I'm not certain.
So I have this thing, sharing this is a bit personal. When I tell myself I can't eat certain foods, I can't do certain things, all I want to do is eat those certain foods or do certain things. So if I say to myself, I'm going to start eating brilliantly, the only thing I can guarantee you is that I will not start eating brilliantly.
Yeah. So there's the book I'm reading at the moment called Humans, talking about how humans have kind of stuffed up so much of what we've done.
Yep.
I've forgotten what the concept was called, but the idea is past us had a much better idea of what the right answer for future us was than current us.
Current me is an idiot.
Current everyone, not just current Durham, current everyone is a bumbling fool. And so just like laying your clothes out the night before, you want to set things up so that past you has got future you's best intentions at mind.
Yeah, so that's like meal prep. You do it on the Sunday.
Meal prep, not having like sweets in the house, putting your clothes out the night before. So I've forgotten what the concept was called, but it's basically like, it's not just you, everyone has that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I definitely fall victim to that. So what I find is that I do really well when I don't set up too much expectations around. I just try and eat great without it being like a real program.
Great, not brilliant. So it's just like, I'm going to eat an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, and I do that really well. But the minute I start tracking that, and I start thinking about it each day, I'm like, oh, I could go a donut.
The day you start the calorie tracking.
So I'm just, I like the precision nutrition idea of focus on what you're trying to put on your plate, not on what you're trying to not have. So if you focus on, okay, well, I want to have great sources of protein, fats,
complex carbs, lots of fiber,
and you just focus on what you want to get, then it's kind of like it pushes off the other stuff off the plate. Whereas if you focus on what you can't have, it's just that's where your mind goes.
Yeah.
And so the reverse streaks idea was that you've got to. So what I found with a normal streak with eating is that if I was on a streak of 3 or 4 days of brilliant eating, and then I had one thing where if circumstances meant I just had no choice but to have something that wasn't optimal, I'd be like, oh, well, that streak's broken. And then I'm like, well, I've broken the streak today. I may as well really make today count.
And then start again tomorrow. Yeah.
Whereas I've had this idea that the app has this reverse streaks option too, where you can put in just the bad ones. And maybe that will be a little way around psychology, but I don't know. So watch the space.
Might have a part 2 on that one coming up. Yeah, pretty cool.
But yeah, I think getting organised, just in terms of working out what you want. I mean, that's the ultimate thing. Having an objective, strategy, and some tactics. Most people have a goal, and then they live in tactics. They actually don't have a strategy. I think part of the getting organised thing is actually having a strategy of how you're going to do stuff. I'm writing an article about it at the moment, so it's on my mind a lot. So that'll be out sometime soon, and we can link to that as well.
Hopefully during Organised August to really nail the fact that you got organised and got your writing in and your other habits.
Yeah, it's just that it's turned into a really big article because it's the one fitness, health and productivity article to rule them all. So it's blowing out on me a little bit.
I'd write you a short letter, but I ran out of time, that kind of thing.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about.
Can I talk about my Organised August strategy?
Yeah.
So I'm similar to you, pretty good on my training. I run, I lift, occasionally ride, not so much with the swimming anymore. But eating's not too bad as well. My thing for this Organised August, when I heard about it from the boys over at the Daily Talk Show, was data. My data and online security systems. Very, very exciting stuff.
Very important stuff.
Yeah. Very important because getting hacked is unlikely. Having someone actually hack and access your bank account and all that sort of stuff is low in the percentage terms. Yep. But what is likely is if you use the same password on Facebook, on Gmail, on Instagram, on your banking app, on all those things, that someone finds it and hacks, say, for example, MyFitnessPal is the calorie tracking app. They got hacked a while ago. Yeah. And so you had the same password email combo there. It's quite likely that the hackers tried that on Facebook. And so that Facebook's unlikely to have a full password email connection breach. But someone might find those same details somewhere else and bring it across.
It's basic hygiene to have different passwords, like to have no one password, to have different ones for everything. So you're going through getting that done?
Yeah, so slowly working through those, starting with the big ones like where your personal data is, things like Facebook, things like your email, banking ones, anything connected to finance. And then what I do have is I have a burner password that's connected to all the stuff that's pretty irrelevant. Like those free samples you try and the trial softwares and things like that. Like I have what I call a burner password.
You don't care.
But if it gets hacked, sure, you get all my free softwares that I've signed up for and all those email spam things. But anything that contains sensitive data or financial information is cleaned up as well.
Nice.
And then the other one as well is getting a more regular habit with backing up my computer. So Time Machine if you're on Mac or Carbon Copy Cloner or anything along those lines, running a consistent, regular backup so that if things are to go wrong, that's okay, I only lost a day's work, not a month's work. So that's why my laptop's not here today, is because it's sitting at home doing a clone.
Good stuff. I fully support that. That's good.
So data, and then cleaning up some stuff in there. Because
in terms of general applications, I think those, like what we're doing, is both good ones. But I think for a lot of people, it's just the Marie Kondo thing's become a huge thing in the last couple of years, to the extent that that Salvation Army and other places like that, where they take your clothes and stuff you don't want, they're being overwhelmed because everyone's cleaning. It's become such a huge thing.
It's kind of this combination of, for those who don't know, Marie Kondo is a Japanese cleaning specialist. She loves to clean. She was on a podcast with Tim Ferriss.
And she's an organising your life, organising your house type person. Yeah.
And she has a Netflix series called, I think it's called Tidying.
Yeah.
It's so adorable. She goes in and teaches people how to clean, has all these hacks about how to do things better. And she goes to some places that are like just full hoarder level stuff, but also just some normal houses, just like a couple of kids, small apartment or a small 2-bedroom house, and it's just gotten full. But yeah, her stuff is like really clever.
Yeah, she's great.
And I think you combine that with, there's a bit of minimalism is very in vogue right now in terms of like tiny houses and things along those lines, and living with less, that people are going, actually, I don't need 50 pairs of jeans. I need 3 or 4.
Well, and I've read the Blinkist of her book. So Blinkist is this awesome subscription service where they do summaries of all the books. So sometimes you need to read the full book to get every little nuance, and there's other things where you can actually read the highlights of it, and you're going to get a pretty good gist of it.
So I gave up Blinkist.
Did you?
Yeah, because what I found was, yes, I could blink the book and get the things like, but I find the benefit is having the book sitting on my bedside table and constantly being like reading it slowly and taking time reading through all the stories and the analogies and stuff. But actually having the book there was the reminder that, you know, it spent 2 weeks just slowly implanting itself in my brain. Whereas you skim through it in Blinkist, sure, you got all the same facts, but they didn't spend time bouncing around my brain the same way.
I think for me, it's that I'm not going to read all those books. So it's for me, like I'm not using Blinkist to replace reading. It's just that there's some books that I just want to get the gist of. And anyway, the big thing with the Marie Kondo one was start with your clothes first.
Clothes first.
That's
she has a very specific strict order,
and that's a great place to start, because that's the easy place in many ways. If you build up the muscles of throwing things out with your clothes, then you'll have more throwing things out muscles with the other more tricky things. Because clothes are pretty easy, because you look at the clothing, you go, does this look good on me? Do I have a use for it?
Have I worn it recently? Will I wear it recently?
In her words, does it spark joy? And then you go, nope, it doesn't. Bang, it goes.
And she has a really nice thing, which is to say thank you to the items before you throw them out. It's like, thank you, you've been great, but I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. We are a strength and conditioning podcast and gym.
Yep.
We should talk about organised in the gym.
We should.
When you look at...
I know it's a little late in the episode, but it should now be our time for our first Iron Edge Pro tip.
Yes.
Yeah, let's throw to that.
Storage is one of those things in gyms that's not really considered, it's not very exciting, but it's really important to both safety and the flow of how your gym works. Now, everything should have a place, and there should be a place for everything. That's pretty obvious when it comes to things like cable machines, barbells, plates, but the things that are a little tricky are those small items. Med balls, foam rollers, bands, where do they live? And that's where the Iron Edge modular rack comes in. You've got the small one, you've got the large, and they're completely modular and versatile. So you've got this flat surface here that you can put your kettlebells in, weight vests, things like that. There's these rungs that can hold your balls in place. But my favorite piece is this cage here, which you can hold your hurdles, cones, bands, foam rollers, mini bands, whatever it might be. You can put in these versatile cages, keeping things off the floor and keep your gym both flowing nicely and safe from tripping hazards. That's your Iron Edge Pro tip.
I just didn't anticipate. I didn't realise what a big impact having a really clean gym would make in terms of the way things just run. Like, we've always had a pretty clean gym. I'm not about having a messy gym, but having specific storage has been amazing, and having everything up off the floor.
Everything in its place, and a place for everything.
Yeah. So there's some gym setups where toaster racks are essential, and we had one before. Now we've got one where it isn't. And just, it's been amazing having them off the floor and having everything else up, and you just get to see this nice clean floor. There's no trip hazards, and it's just easier to operate as well.
Yeah, because safety is a big part of that. Trip hazards are a thing, and make sure you get, but then also just flow. Like if you're doing a squat pull or a squat row type situation, you shouldn't have to go to 3 different places to get all the accessories.
Get your stuff and go. So the more, and I think just every time you can have the opportunity to get stuff away and tidied up off the floor and easy to find. Where I would still like to move for us is, I'd like us to be a little more like the Toyota way. So the Toyota way, they have, and Toyota revolutionized automotive engineering in terms of the way they have their production set up. And their thing is that everything has a place, and there's a specific word for it. Kate will know, but I've forgotten the name of it. And it's as specific as, if the remote control goes in a certain part of the tray for the telly or whatever, there's tape all around in a rectangle, and it says remote control, and that remote control is like either in your hand or it's back
in that spot,
in that exact spot. And so the efficiency is that every spanner is always where it should be. Every little thing is always where it should be.
There's awesome garage.
I love those garages
where they've got like the outline of all the spanners on the wall in different sizes, all lining up on screws. That's so satisfying to look at.
Yeah, and it just makes it so easy because you just know exactly where the things are. Yeah. So that's probably the next thing I would like. If anyone
spanners on the wall, or
just spots for stuff. There's still our barbell. We've got our cushions for the barbells for people with without its big traps, or with not a lot of,
or for hip thrusts as well. Use those same cushions hip thrusts.
Like having none of us can think of the perfect spot for them. They're just kind of floating around the gym, and it drives me crazy. I'm looking forward to finding.
They do not have a place. They have not everything in their place.
They need a basket somewhere.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff being organised. Not so much. to talk about or think about. But I think it sets the foundation for all the exciting stuff you want to do. If you want to get a lot of stuff done and the output is exciting, but often the minutiae, the structure that sets you up for it, not as much, but it's that foundational quality.
It's one of those things, if you take like a month, a year, or a couple of days or a couple of minutes just to go, okay, before I dive into this job or before I set this thing up, how can I just optimize it a little bit? It doesn't have to be full optimization, you have to go crazy on it. But how can I just optimize this a bit so that every rep from here on in will be easier of doing a thing? If I'm going to do a thing 100 times, I'll just lay it out a little bit better so that those 100 things are a little less painful. And over the course of doing those 100 repetitive tasks, you'll save all that time you set up in organising it.
Yeah, so spending just a little bit more time on setup so that the overall task ends up being significantly easier and faster.
That's really what organising is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, just make it easy. So it comes back to what you said. So what organising is about is it's making it easier for future you. Like current you is just setting future you up to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Cool. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it, and coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years, so it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
Probably more than even coaching, the concepts that I learnt from Core Advantage in the program were, they've always stuck with me.
If you're wanting to transform your life, make a big difference and improve other people's lives, then it's the best use of your 6 months imaginable.
Semester 3 of the mentorship, opening September 1, 2019.